We doing math today. Ain't got time for no games. We doing math today. All work and no play. We doing math today.
Hey guys, let's go over the introductory video for D0. I basically copied this down from C, but I have some additions to it, okay? Alright. So the first thing is we're basically going to find a percentile. And basically that just means we're finding this value of X on my ghost here. And basically what we're going to be given is the yellow area as a percent. And we need to find the percentile or the position, which is the variable X. Okay, so number one, we're going to draw a picture. Previously, without technology and the chart, we would use the formula and then number 3% to a z-score, but we now have this technology aspect. And I'm going to show you guys in both ways, and feel free to, again, to pause the video to copy down these steps. So here are the steps for a TI83, which I use on my iPad. Graph and Calc 83 is the name of the app. So in blue here, you're going to click second vars. And then you're going to, there's two things you can do here. You can just type in inverse norm parentheses point something as your percent and close the parentheses, and you basically get the z-score. And more practically is if you use, for number 3, inverse norm, and then you do this thing called PMS. Before it was plums, this one is called PMS. Percent, comma, mean, comma, standard deviation. For the Desmos app, you will use functions. And then something that's new is you still use normal distribution, but in front of it, I want you to put D equals to name the function. And then underneath, we're going to put D dot inverse norm and then parentheses PMS. What does PMS stand for? That is the percent, mean, and standard deviation. And then number 4, your box is the answer. Okay, let's see if we could do the example from the last problem. We don't have one. But before we start trying D1, it says determine each percentile using technology. The scores on the ACT test are normally distributed with a mean of 20.9 and a standard deviation of 4.8. I found out that the highest score on ACT is 36. I took the SATs, so that was different back then. Okay, let's go ahead and try D1. Determine the 30th percentile for the ACT scores. Let's draw our picture. And here is my curve. And here is my mean. And they're telling us that this is the 30th percentile. So again, under the curve is everything is 100% or 1, and if you cut it in half, that's 50% on the left, 50% on the right. So 30% would be something like this. We're basically saying this area is 0.30. This black region is 30%, and basically what we're trying to solve for is X. Okay, so that is my picture. Okay, so now instead of using the formula and the z-score and using finding the percent and then to get the z-score, we're just going to use the technology that has already memorized the z-scores. So the mean in this case from up there is 20.9. I need to write that down. And the standard deviation is 4.8. Okay. So basically, what is the value of X? So for our TI83 or 84, we're going to write inverse norm of 0.30, because now I need to follow PMS. My percent, my mean, and standard deviation. So let's go ahead and put that in, and it's going to give us an answer. So second vars inverse norm 0.30 comma 20.9 comma 4.8, and our answer is going to be 18.38. 18.38. If you get a score of 18.38, that means you have 30% higher than the rest of the people, but that also means that 70% scored higher than you. Let's do that through Desmos. Okay, let's clear these out. Let's pretend you're starting from the beginning. So under the first thing I want you to do is just write D equals, and then go to functions. There's trig stats distribution. So under distributions, go ahead and click normal distribution, and you're going to get something here. Okay. What I want you to do is, if you can not do anything and just click on number 2. Now I want you to click D period functions. Now I want you to go to inverse CDF. Okay, and then now we're going to type in. There it is. Okay, so we don't need to type in the PMS. We just need to put in the P there. And there's my answer that's in the box. 18.38. Let's make sure I have that up here. So we just need to have just the p-value. Okay, let's try example number 2 now. Determine the 85th percentile for the ACT scores. I'm going to draw a curve. We know that the mean is 20.9, the center, and 85th percentile, something like this. So all of that is 0.85, and we need to figure out what x is. So if I use my TI83, that means I'm going to use inverse norm, and we're going to use PMS. So percent is 85, comma, mean 20.9, and standard deviation of 4.8. If we were using Desmos, we're basically just going to have the inverse of CDF of 0.85, but above it we're going to have 20.9 and 4.8. Okay, let's use our technology to figure that out. Again, from the last video, you can type in second, enter, and it actually copies the whole formula. Is that pretty nice? And then you can just go back here and change this one. And our answer is 25.87. Let's go to Desmos. And again, the top is correct. You just type in D equals normal distribution, mean 20.9, and comma 4.8. And this time our percent is 85. And 25.87 is our answer. So if someone scores a 25.87 on the ACTs, that means they've scored higher than 85% of everyone who's taken it, and that means only 15% have scored higher than them. Let's go ahead and go to D3. Determine the score separating the lowest 8% of scores from the rest. So again, our mean is 20.9. I know my standard deviation is 4.8, and this says lowest 8%. So basically this yellow area will be 8%, 8 out of 100, and then this green area, we don't need to know that, but those two, yellow plus green, gives us 92, right? So for our TI83, we're going to get inverse norm, and we got PMS, so 0.08, 20.9, and 4.8. And for the Desmos, we're going to have to write normal distribution. D equals normal distribution of 20.9 comma 4.8, and then D dot inverse CDF of 0.08. And both of these will give me a X score right here. Let's put those in. Let's pretend you didn't know how to get there. So second inverse is below the arrow, down arrow, and then inverse norm is number 3. You can click number 3 or just type it. What's nice about this is it'll tell you, so what is the area? The area in this problem was 0.08, comma, our mean was 20.9, and standard deviation of 4.8. And our answer is 14.16. You need an ACT score of 14.16 to score above, better than 8% of others who have taken it. Let's try Desmos. Again, let's start as if you've never done this before. We have to do D equals functions in the bottom right. There's 4 tabs: trig, stats, distribution, miscellaneous, distribution. We're going under normal distribution, and we're going to have to type in here the mean and the standard deviation. Okay. Then, if we type in D period functions, distribution, inverse CDF in the bottom right, then we're going to just type in the 8%, and then you will see your answer there, 14.16. We need a score right there of 14.16. Okay, let's go ahead and go to D4. Greg scored in the top 3% of ACT test scores. Okay, that means if he's really good, that means his score is close to 36. All right, determine the cutoff score. So again, the mean, everyone averages around 20.9. Standard deviation is 4.8. I'm getting that from direction number 3, which kind of gives you all these problems and gives you those default questions. And then 3% is here. This red tail equals 3%. That means this this yellow region represents 97%, right? 97 plus 3% gives you 100%. So TI83, we're going to do an inverse norm, and we're going to do PMS. So the percent we need, okay, pay attention here. when you're calculating these shaded regions, it's always going from left to right. Okay? So in this case, you actually have to calculate 0.97. 0.97. And then the mean is 20.9, and then standard deviation of 4.8. And for Desmos, you're going to use first D equals normal distribution, and then you're going to type in 20.9, 4.8, and then D period inverse CDF, and then the percent, which is 0.97. All right, let's go put that in our calculator. Remember, we want a close score of 36. Remember, the trick is you can just press second enter and it copies the formula. Again, we want 97. And this would give us a score of 29.93. 29.93. Okay, let's go ahead and try Desmos. Remember, you're going to have to type in D equals normal distribution, the mean of 20.9 and standard deviation of 4.8, and then the CDF. We're not typing in 3%, we're typing in 97%. And there you get it, 29.93. That is the cutoff score. If you score 29.93, that means if you score above it, you're in the top 3% of all the people who take it, and Greg is one of those. Let's go ahead and try D5. A university only considers admitting students who score in the top 20%. So let's just say this blue area here represents 20%. Determine the cutoff score that the university uses to consider students for admissions. So we're trying to find X. And remember, this yellow region is 0.80, because yellow plus blue equals 100%. 80% plus 20% equals 100%. Remember, in these shaded regions, the scores go from left to right. So you're not finding the 20%, you're actually finding the 80%, and it helps you find that score. TI83, we're going to use the calculator commands, inverse, norm, PMS, so 0.80, again, you're not using the 20. The mean they gave us at the very beginning was 20.9 and a standard deviation of 4.8. If you're using the Desmos, we have to type in the calculator command D equals normal distribution of the mean and standard deviation, so the M and the S. So this would be a 20.9, 4.8, and then D dot inverse cumulative density function, which is 0.80. Okay, and then we're going to get an answer for X. So again, second vars number 3, we're getting here 0.80 comma 20.9 comma 4.8, 24.94. If you did that on Desmos, again, let's start over, just make sure you know how to do that. D equals, that's just the formula that you have to put in here. Functions, click on distribution there, and then normal distribution, and we're going to type in 20.9 and 4.8. Okay, and then the next one you're gonna have to type in d dot inverse, so functions, inverse CDF under distributions, and then we're gonna type in 0.80. Let's see what happens if you draw a picture. Guess I don't know how to get shaded, but 2494 is our answer. So if you get a score of 2494, and try to make sense of this, remember the average right in the middle, the mean is 20.9. So this is a couple of questions or question points higher, and then now you're in the top 20% to get into a university. All right, let's go ahead and do D6. Determine the score that separates the top 75% of all scores from the rest. Okay, top 75%. I'm thinking this. Okay, this whole green region here represents the top 75%. And we're trying to find X. And that does mean, you know, you have to find this red region. Let's make sure we're clear. Red plus green equals 1. So if green is equal to 0.75, you subtract 0.75 from 1.0, you will get the red region to be how much? 0.25. That is important because remember, in calculating these density curves, the calculator always starts from left to right. So in some ways, we need to just basically find we need to find 0.25, not 75%. Say that again, you're not putting in 75 for your calculator commands. You're using 25. So, inverse norm, and we're using PMS. 0.25, 20.9, and 4.8. For the Desmos, our calculator command is going to be first d equals normal distribution of p. I'm sorry, not the p, the m and the s, which is 20.9 and 4.8. And then the second calculator you need is d dot inverse CDF of the P. So there's the P, M, and S, but it's just different. And that would be 0.25. All right. So second bars, number 3, inverse norm. The area we have is 0.25. And 0.25, comma, 20.9, comma, 4.8, enter, answer is 17.66. And if you did this from the beginning again, D, find the letter D, equals functions, distribution, normal distribution, 20.9, can't type, comma, 4.8, then go below, get D dot functions, distribution, inverse CDF, and then we're looking at 0.25. And you got the same answer, 17.66. Turn on my pen. X equals 17.66. Now, if you think about this, if you did it the other way around, okay, you can use, let's just say from TI83, let's use a different color. You can use plums. Well, there's the P, and then so my lower would be negative 9,999, something like that. My upper would be at 17.66. I'm trying to prove to you how it equals 25%. Mean is 20.9 and standard deviation of 4.8. And of course, you know, it's going to find a probability or percentage, which is 25%. But I'm just trying to show you guys how to check your answer. What am I doing? Second vars normal CDF, because it's continuous, negative 9,999. We said to 17.7, 20.9, comma, that's the mean, standard deviation is 4.8. And that should be 25%. Pretty close. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. That was D6. We'll see you guys. Bye.
We doing math today. Ain't got time for no games. We doing math today. All work and no play. We doing math today. Listen up and behave. We doing math today. We doing math today.